Everyone, welcome to another episode of Getting to the Bottom Line, where I'm your host, Stephanie Smith, owner of New Light Financial Solutions, where we help entrepreneurs unlock more cash, profit, and peace of mind in their business. And the goal of this podcast is to put into perspective the different things that impact your revenue, profit, and cash flow. And in our business, we look at drivers of revenue, profit, and cash flow, and there's always drivers of those drivers. And I love to have guests on the show to talk about what they're doing and the things that they do that impact the bottom line. So I'm excited to have with me here today, Kim Parkinson. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited. So Kim is a podcast growth coach, dynamic speaker, and a host of podcasting for spiritual women. She helps soul-led entrepreneurs amplify their voice, grow their audience, and attract aligned clients through strategic podcasting. So we're on a podcast today and we're going to talk about podcasting. I'm super excited because I have a podcast. So tell me a little bit about how you got into all of this podcasting stuff.
Oh, sure. Thanks. I owned a craft store, a brick and mortar craft store back in 2012, 2017. And I was on TV. I was doing television spots there. The local cable access was coming in, and I was doing crafting just right there and teaching and just had this automatic, never left any space empty. I was always talking. And he was like, "You're a natural for this. You should do this." So I became executive producer of my own show back then. And when we closed this craft store, I moved on to a corporate job, as some of us do, and quickly found that it just really wasn't for me. I was really an entrepreneur at heart, and I really wanted to do something for myself. And I looked at my resume and I originally thought, I'm going to do website design. So I learned how to do websites, coding. I know 7 different platforms of websites. And then I quickly said, I don't really want to do this. But meanwhile, I had been a huge Audible fan and was listening to audiobooks, podcasts, was listening to it all. And my son actually said, "Mom, why don't you just start editing and producing podcasts?" And I said, "People do that?" And he said, "Of course." And I just started taking a couple courses on it, started learning more, loved it. Now we come from a very musical family. My husband's a musician. My son plays the banjo. So we have and the sax. My other son plays the saxophone. I played the clarinet. So we're very like musically inclined. We go to Singo every Wednesday. So it was really just the next generation of like, what can I do with the medium that I love? And so I started editing and producing podcasts for women. And then I became a podcast growth coach because I was noticing that their podcasts really weren't doing the best that they should. And so really dived into trying to help them grow through podcasting. So, yeah, evolution of podcasting right there.
I love that journey. So were you like the Bob Ross in the crafting space?
I probably was. I was not huge out there. I did make up a couple of my own techniques with some things that were on the circuit for a little bit. I taught anywhere between 8 to probably 22 different craft classes a month at the store. I was very busy.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the thing is it's not sustainable to work 60, 80 hours a week, so that's kind of what kind of killed that. So yeah.
I was going to say, this is quite the difference in work compared to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of creativity with it. The common denominator here is the creativity of music. And also, I'm also going to mention the creativity of helping women. So when I had the craft store, I was helping older women really get their confidence up and create beautiful pieces of art, whatever that might be, whether it was a card, a scrapbook page, a mixed media page. They would always come to me and their first question would be like, "I don't know what colors to use today, Kim." And my answer always was, whatever color you're wearing, because that's the color. You've already made that decision today. So cut that right out. So it's just the building of their confidence. And I totally see that in my industry, what I do today, because I help women with their businesses and their podcast. And it's a confidence. It's the confidence of getting your voice out into the world. And so I'm really, I guess, not only am I a podcast growth coach, podcast producer, but I'm a confidence builder. So
Well, I
yeah.
love that too because I think there's a lot becoming a business owner. It's scary to put yourself out there, especially if you're doing podcasting, if you're doing video podcasting, or just in general. I think there's a lot of us that just kind of hold ourselves back, and they need that boost of confidence. So I love that you're doing that. You've always done that. So tell me a little bit more about how you work with people and what you do with your business.
Yeah, so we help people, and I say we because I do have a couple of team members as well. We help people launch and grow their business and through podcasting. So launch their podcast beginning with just an idea, I want to talk about this subject. It kind of goes with this with my business. How can I combine the two? So we work with them to do that. And then once they have launched it, we also do the production, the weekly production, every other week, bi-weekly, whatever their cadence is. And we do all of the editing, we do all of like the show notes and the titles and all of that. And I'll even put it up on your website and things like that because I know website design. And then after that, the other part of that is growth, right? It's keeping track of your stats and making sure that you're actually moving in the right direction. And whether or not that is small tweaks in your titles or small tweaks in your description or just, keeping and maintaining your authority, we talk about that as well. So we just kind of go from launch an idea until you have reached your some growth and start getting clients from your podcast.
Wow. Excuse me. Well, that's great. So you help people from beginning to end and
Yeah.
get out there. What do you see? You've obviously worked with a lot of different people with a lot of different topics and podcasts. What are the like top mistakes that you see people do with their podcast?
Oh, I'm going to tell you the first one is consistency. 100%. I have people that just they feel like, okay, well, I've reached, 100 downloads per episode. And so I'm just, I'm not going to release one this month. Or can we re-release one from, last year or last month or whatever. And I feel like it's even if you made your episodes shorter and not as much information, because let's face it, each episode probably should just have one topic to it, right? And then once you have just one topic, you can have multiple topics, and even in within those multiple topics you might even have additional subtopics. So there's plenty to talk about, but you don't have to say it all at once. And I think people do have a tendency to just continue the conversation, and then they realize, maybe I've gotten a lot of downloads, or maybe I've gotten no downloads. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop for the summer. I'm going to stop for December or whatever it is. And what ends up happening is those people, they love to listen and they listen every week. And if you stop that, they're going to go listen to somebody else and they may not pick yours back up.
Mm.
So consistency is super important here.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? And you don't know if maybe they're just not doing it anymore. They're not going to look for you anymore. So I love that, keeping that in mind. So what I want to talk about too, we talk about things that impact your bottom line. I feel like it's really big, and it might just be because I have a podcast and I'm in certain spaces, but it seems like people are really using podcasts these days to grow their business as a growth strategy to get leads and that kind of stuff. I would love to hear your take on using podcasts to get yourself out there and grow your business from a revenue perspective. And if you have seen someone do that, what did that look like and what kind of results did they get?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you are really showing your potential clients your true self when you podcast, because you're just in their ears, or if you're a YouTube, they can see you, but you are really giving your authority, right? You're telling them what you know, you're explaining to them. And it's really hard to like mask your voice that way. So they can really hear it when you know and you understand what it is that you're talking about. If you're unsure, people are going to hear it. It's going to be in the tone, right? And so knowing what you do know and sharing that with your crowd really gives that authority and really lends that to them saying, she knows her stuff. I get it. So I'm going to start following her. And then if you continuously, for like, say, 8 to 10, 12 weeks, give them the same CTA every week, that is going to really nail it down. And if you follow that up with like a newsletter or something, they're going to click and they're going to get into your sphere. And then they're going to start, you're going to start growing your audience and growing your client base too. And I have seen this. I've seen this a couple times with some clients as far as one of my clients just recently hit 10 million in sales. And she has been doing online lives, and then she takes those lives and we turn them into podcast episodes. She takes hot seat coaching and she turns those into podcast episodes. And the beauty of the lives is, one, it's usually a solo episode. So you're maintaining your authority, you're showing people what you're about. And then the hot seat coaching, that is kind of like what I would consider a coaching episode. So it's showing those potential clients how you coach and how you can help them in a almost real world situation. And so it's really reassuring to that listener and then that potential buyer that I get it. I get her. I like her style. I like how she does it. I want to go and I want to be part of her world. So, yeah.
I love hearing those stories, right? Of people that are doing really well and they make little tweaks. A lot of what we talk about is making small changes to make a big difference with cash flow and everything. And it sounds like that could be pretty similar in the podcasting space too, right? Making small changes and making adjustments and being consistent, and seeing the growth from that. Are there certain calls to actions or things that people should be doing on their podcast that you've seen work better than other things?
Yes. Yes. 100%. If you do not have any kind of like special promo or anything like that, you should be sending them directly to your newsletter always. And that's because once you have their email on your newsletter, you own that, and then you can sell to them or you can offer value to them in your newsletter because that's never going to go away unless they unsubscribe. But for the most part, that's never going to go away. So don't send them to your socials because that could go away at any time. And then, you could, if you wanted to, you could send them right into a discovery call if you wanted to do something like that. But more often than not, I would suggest just sending them right to your newsletter and then start really reinforcing the lessons that you have taught in your podcast episode in your newsletter. Don't just tell them in the newsletter, hey, this is what we talked about on the podcast this week, and I want you to go listen to it. Because if you've given them a Cliff Notes version in the newsletter, why are they going to go listen to the podcast episode? So you want your newsletter to be a companion, not a Cliff Notes version, but send them to that newsletter and watch that grow too, because and there's ways with your with your newsletter system of knowing whether or not they came in from the podcast. Create a different one, and then oh, these ones came in from YouTube. I can see that growth. These ones came in from my podcast episodes. You could see those growth, and it's kind of cool when you can see all those stats come through, right? You're a numbers gal. You get that.
Yes, tracking is very important. Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking to myself, these are all tips I need to implement in my own business and my podcast. And there's just so many little things that you have to remember to do. And I feel like that's why people need people like you to help
Yeah.
them, put everything in place. So I'm curious, what's your absolute favorite part of doing all this? Is it the editing? Is it the coaching? Like what's your favorite part?
So I personally am really loving the coaching right now. I feel like it is a part where there are certain nuances to it, right? So somebody may need some ideas on like setup, So what kind of setup should I need? My audio doesn't sound great. And so I can coach them through that. But then maybe they're not getting their 100 downloads per episode and they need some small tweaks. Maybe it's just some SEO rich key phrases that are in their description that they need to tweak. Or maybe it's their entire name of their podcast. Maybe it's something really obscure that people aren't finding. And it could be very small tweaks. Now, I just told a client yesterday, and she has a name of her podcast is just two letters. So it's a U and an R. And I said to her, people aren't really looking when they do a podcast search in a podcast search engine for a U and an R. They're looking for YOU and RARE. They're not really searching for just a U and an R. So, and I even mentioned that some people use the letter four in there, to, and it's really cute in the cover art. Keep it there. But when you are putting it into your show host, spell it out, because that's what people are doing. They're spelling it out. So yeah, I just kind of give you a little tweak. So I love the coaching part of it, but I will say occasionally I really get an itching for some editing. And so I'll just take on an editing project for myself, because I kind of just love the nuts and bolts of it, right? I want to stay fresh on it too. So yeah.
I just love all the things. I still love that you're helping people be successful, right? That's the whole goal. So I have another question. Do you find that people that do video or just audio, is one better than the other, or is there a good combination? Because like my podcast, I put on YouTube and then I do put the audio version out on the other platforms. But I'm just curious if you've seen that one way works better than the other, or if both is good, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, there was actually just a study done with this just recently, and I really read in depth on it because I just launched my own podcast, and I also came up with the should I be on YouTube? Should I do this? And I have decided not to be on YouTube. And the reason being is time. My time is super valuable, and editing video is way more time consuming than editing audio. And I can still go live. I could, after I publish the episode, I could go live on YouTube or my Facebook group and just tell a little snippet about what the episode's about and really promote it that way. And therefore, I'm still getting that like YouTube, like extra like little bump. But realistically, even though YouTube's like, hey, we're now the number one platform for people to listen on, they're doing it per platform. So they did it kind of sneakily. They said, I don't remember the numbers, but I'm going to give you just some average numbers here. So they're like, hey, 50% of people are listening on YouTube. And that's actually, I can't even say 50 because that would be wrong. So let's do 40% of people are listening on YouTube, but only 30% are listening on Apple and 10% are listening on Spotify. And again, these numbers are arbitrary, they're not right, but they don't take into account all the other podcast distribution platforms. So when you add up all the different platforms of audio only, it actually equals more than what just one platform, YouTube, is. And there isn't another platform for YouTube that's kind of out there, right? YouTube's kind of its own little beast. I mean, we have Vimeo and things like that, but it's not like YouTube. So there isn't another one to compare it to specifically. Whereas audio is still queen. I'm going to say it. Audio is still queen when it comes to your podcasts, because let's face it, if you are in the woods, I live in New England, so if you're in the backwoods of Maine, if you've downloaded a podcast, you can listen to it while you're walking the dog. But if you have a YouTube video, you're probably not gonna be able to stream that because there's just no connection up there. So depends on your audience and who you want and your time management, what you want.
That makes sense. And I think too, sometimes I'll go for a walk and even if it is a video, I just put it in my pocket and
Yeah.
I'm not watching the video, but I want to listen to it. But it definitely, if you have a spotty internet just in general, then downloading it makes sense. But it sounds like, right, it's a personal choice of
Yeah.
whether you want to put the time into it. it's not, I don't think it's a bad thing at all, but I love hearing your perspective on it. So if someone doesn't have a podcast and they're interested in getting started, what would you say is the one or two things that you would recommend them do to get started?
If you don't have a podcast and you want to get started, the very first thing you need to do is decide on what it is that is going to benefit either you or your business to get started. So if you're going to be talking every week to somebody, are you going to be driving them to your business, or is this going to be a hobby and you're just going to be talking about dogs or chickens or lawn care or something like that? But if you are driving them to a business, which is what I'm assuming here we're doing, what is it that your business is about? How can you show and maintain your authority for that and really nail that in? Like, a lot of times, there's a lot of different conversation around maybe one topic. And can you continue that conversation by breaking it up into actionable, value driven steps every week? And if you can do that, which a lot of people can, if you're doing any kind of social media reels, or maybe you're sending out a newsletter, or maybe you're finding yourself talking to clients about the same thing over and over again, those are good topics for your podcast right there. And then the only other things that I would suggest that you need is a microphone, some type of headphones or headset if you're going to do some interviews or whatnot. And then you can record just right on Zoom. You don't need anything special. Or if you downloaded the free Audacity app, it would be free. Or GarageBand, if you're on a Mac, it's free. So you don't even need that. So it can be really cost effective. I actually have one client, and she's been my longest standing client. She has a podcast where she does a Bible study, and she has been known to record just on her phone and send it to me that way. It's really, she's getting her value. She's getting her listeners to hear the prayer for the week, and it's impactful because she's delivering it consistently and showing her followers what is what the prayer needs to be for the week. So yeah, it's just a little bit of a little bit of materials that you need, but not, you don't need to go crazy with like hundreds of $1,000 equipment or anything like that.
One, let's face it, the technology has come a really long way.
Oh yeah.
Well, my
Oh yeah.
phone, I gifted an old DSLR camera to my nephew, and I'm pretty sure my phone takes better pictures than that camera did. It was kind of old, but everything on our phones, they can do the job, just get it done. So I have one last
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
What's your take on having guests on your podcast or going solo?
Okay. I know I'm a guest on your podcast. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a guest on your podcast. But I am going to also say I have a rule where I prefer to only have one guest on my podcast every 6 weeks or so, because the other episodes are me showing and giving my listeners authority and giving them more of me and showing them who I really am and how I can help them and how I can drive them to success. Whereas the podcast guests are supposed to be just a accompaniment to that, right? Like a somebody that really kind of shows them, you know, yes, this works. And here's just something I don't know about, but I really want to give you some more value. And this is the value on that. So my take on guests versus solo is keep your maintain and keep your authority by having just not having on as many guests and just having more solo episodes. Make them short and sweet. All my episodes are probably between 8 to 18 minutes long. They're not long at all. So, yeah.
It makes sense, right? The whole goal is to get people to know who you are. And I've
Yeah.
done that. When I first launched my podcast, I had just guests, and I was like, I need to put myself out there more, right? So I started doing solo episodes as well. So I love that you reiterated that, because the goal is to get people to know who you are and get to know you better and what you do and know, like, and trust you, right? So
Yeah.
especially if you're doing this for business, we want people to do business with you. And if you never talk yourself, then they won't they won't ever know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I do love that. But I want to ask if somebody is interested in getting started or they need help or they want growth and they need help with that, if they wanted to connect with you and maybe hire you, how can they do that? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so I have a website, kpcreativemedia.com. And if you do /growth hyphen clarity hyphen call, you can get into a call directly with me. It does ask you questions about your podcast, but it's a 20-minute free call and it will just give you some more clarity on where maybe you can improve. Or if you haven't started a podcast, there's a little checkbox there and you can click on that. And then we can talk about how the best way it is for you to start and grow and align it to get the most bang for your buck and the best clients that you can out of it.
Awesome. I think everyone should go connect with Kim online, get your free session, start a podcast, grow your podcast. We all need that. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today. This has been a great conversation because we're all looking for strategies to grow our business, and this is definitely a popular one at the moment. And it doesn't have to be hard, but it's good as to do if you're interested in doing that. So thanks for coming and talking about all of this with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And if you're looking for more information about me, you can find me online. Our website is newlightfs.com. You can sign up for our newsletter if you want more tips on how to grow your revenue, profit, and cash flow. That's where we focus. But otherwise, that's all I have for you for the show today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you join me again for the next one. Bye, everyone.